Hello and welcome wherever you're consuming this content, whether it's the In the Money Media YouTube channel or the In the Money Players podcast. Peter Thomas Fornital back with you in the Brooklyn bunker, the no longer completely freezing Brooklyn bunker. I have the space heater on, but it's just out of habit at this point. It's actually above freezing here in New York. The same is true in Maryland, where we're going to be focusing our energy for today's show. And once again, very happy to have with me after an excellent performance on the show last weekend and getting her steps in, running up and down the grandstand at Laurel for all those stakes interviews, etc. What goes on behind the scenes that the folks don't see. Kali Francois, how are you? How was your big weekend last weekend? Give me some takeaways before let's look back before we look forward.
Yeah, it was a big weekend, basically sums it up, Pete. I mean, of course, the highlight of the whole weekend was Point Doom and winning for Busch Racing in the General George. I mean, if you guys are following the story at all, Dave's father, Brian, he's going through a battle of stage 4 cancer. So Point Doom is just a huge help for the family as far as motivation goes and just kind of helping with that. So that was really the big thing. The other stakes, we had 5-1 winners. We covered a lot in that show last time out, but we needed to for a reason because the races were just that good.
I'm very glad, though, on a
Yeah.
weekend where there are a couple of stakes, but it's more of the kind of weekend you can expect week in, week out at Laurel, that we're putting you guys front and center once again, because I'm really excited about everything going on for horse players. We've talked about it before in terms of the handicapping guide and the free data and all the terrific stuff. You make some great contributions over there. And also in terms of this wagering menu, the value pick 5 with its 12% takeout. That's what we're going to be focusing our energy today. And we'll start off with this 5th race at Laurel on Saturday, where we've got an optional claimer going 5.5 on the dirt. How should we kick this thing off, my friend?
So race 5 starts a wonderful sequence for this late pick 5, a fun allowance optional 55. You got some hefty horses in here. 2 are kind of coming off the layoff, and it's Hammer Time and Dean Delivers, so I just leave them underneath. Prince of Jericho has been just knocking it out of the park ever since coming off the layoff for Brittany and Sheldon, but it's just Chipotle refused to be passed last time out. Just a little bit of unluckiness, so I go 1, 2, 5, 4. It's Hammer Time for Gary Capuano coming off of a big enough layoff, a 314-day layoff, but you can always count on Gary in these types of layoffs here. I also, of course, you got to go with Dean Delivers underneath. He's also kind of coming off of a layoff as well. He's a horse that kind of needs to run into races a little bit. And then underneath, No Sense for Cal Lynch and Angel Cruz, also coming off the layoff, but I think the other horses in this field are just a touch stronger.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, especially about Prince of Jericho. Has the right draw to use that tactical speed. Chance that Prince of Jericho can just shake loose here, and that would make it a long day for the rest of them. I am a little bit intrigued by It's Hammer Time. Was going to try to work It's Hammer Time onto some tickets. Been off a long time, but appears to be working well for the return. Chestnut Vacoma Colt gets bet every time, seemingly.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that the horse is going to be at his best at the 5.5, but he fits, and there's a world in which you could just trip out perfectly if somebody wants to tangle with Prince of Jericho. Any word? I'm asking you this, and I didn't ask you off air, so feel free to punt this question right into the sky. But any word on how It's Hammer Time might be doing for this return to the races?
I think Gary has given Dan good reports for all intensive purposes. If you need any more information, Dan gets with a lot of these top trainers and gets quotes from them, and he gets an article out by Wednesday. I do think it's very interesting that the horse has been training at Delaware with Gary having the strong contingency, obviously, at Laurel. So from all accounts, I hear that the horse is doing good. We see a couple bullet works. I think, that short gate work on the mud is kind of telling as well, just to kind of do it. And it wasn't a quick gate work. So for me, just kind of I understand how Gary operates in the morning. So he did that just to keep the horse's mind fresh and seemingly quick, but not doing too much, essentially. So, but this horse comes good off the layoff in itself as an individual. So I'm not crazy. I'm not going to be crazy concerned about this layoff, to be quite honest, because we've seen him come off of big layoffs. This is just the biggest. I'm less worried about the layoff than I am the field that he's in here today.
For sure, and when they've shown they can do it before, that's as
Yeah,
good of a clue very often as any Clocker report you're gonna get. Dan, who you mentioned, of
yeah,
course, Dan Illman, the man
yeah,
responsible for a lot of these player-friendly changes and the mastermind behind the
yeah,
aforementioned handicapping guide. Let's go to race number 6 as
yeah.
our, dive into this value pick 5 continues.
Yeah.
$40,000 claimers, fillies and mares taking center stage here, 4 and up, going 6 furlongs. Callie, we'll keep it with you.
So we've got, remember, keep in mind, Jamie Ness loves to do this. He loves to enter a coupled entry and then scratch one of them. So by all accounts, both of those horses are faster in the first half of this race than the rest of this field. And honestly, with the way the field is turning up, either one of those horses could take them gate to wire. I am kind of leaning on the number 6 and Awe of Juju. But then underneath is where it gets really interesting, the 3, 4, and 5. So the 3 blinkers on with this one. Sheldon was in the spot at the half mile where he was technically there. The other rider came over on him and he had to take back. Now, I remember I actually texted him after that race being like, "Hey, like you should have gotten a little bit of that from the stewards." But he's like, "I had no horse and I totally get it because," and kind of vying for Sheldon because I pulled that move on him. He came over on me when I was right there. I technically had just enough horse, but I pulled an inquiry on him and I got one over him. So I'm kind of like, I was kind of vying for Sheldon there in that second, but blinkers on for Farrier. Sheldon's going to take one run at this horse, and I think that's the way to go. Tune to the Moon was coming first off the layoff. They like to be fresh. They like to be fun off of the layoff, and I think they just got a little bit too hot under the collar. They're going to take back a little bit from that first off the layoff effort for Joanne Schenkel. I presume that Thais Laipustino will be on. Not sure of yet as of this recording. Chrissy and game is as game does. So the 3, 4, and 5 go wide in this leg on this late pick 5 sequence for sure.
I'll throw in another one for you. And that is such a good
Yeah.
point you mentioned about the nest runners and how this pace might not be as fast as it looks if you're just handicapping it like a race without that kind of institutional knowledge that Callie brings to the table. The horse that I like though is the 8 Mad for Maddie.
I knew you were going to say that.
It just seems to me like an ideal candidate for the cutback, a horse that's usually forward. I'm imagining here will still be in a forward position, but probably more of a stalk and pounce trip. But I think that could bring a lot more finish out of her. And I just thought the last race was better than it looked. That was a big closer day at Delaware. And Mad for Maddie battled on the lead throughout before just capitulating late. So to take another look at your 6, 3, 4, and 5, but I definitely want some 8s as well. I think we might be getting narrow enough that we can use all the runners we've talked about so far.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. We'll enter the stakes portion of the card with the hinge of this value pick 5. It's the wide country stakes. We're going 7 furlongs here, and we'll start the conversation with number 6. Oh no, I'm in the wrong. I have turned myself around. I am in. We're going to start the conversation with number 3, Law School. This time around, a horse that's simply going to take a lot of beating. Proven. She's proven in stakes company. Ran a complete race last time, and what I mean by that was able to run fast early, settle a little bit in the middle, and then finish. Versatile in terms of running style, which makes her a little bit bomb-proof in that regard. Are you with or against Law School?
A little against. I'm going to bring up why. So yes, she, in your sense, she had a really beautiful trip in that way, but she was able to get up there and stay up there and continue on with it. But at the same time, she kind of had her own little personal space bubble, that entire backside of the portion. So that's where, and when we get, so just a heads up, everybody, the number 5 Striker Rose for Jeremiah Eichelhart will be a scratch. So we're down to a 4-horse field at this time of recording, which is where I'm going to say Law School got it really easy last time, but she gets a bit of an inside post. There's a chance she's going to be hounded. And if you look back on her form, she just does not love that. But he was able to get he made an easy trip for her in the sense of being able to target that pace. And you and I discussed potential weather coming up, Matoli 17% on a wet track. So that's where I say, I'm going to go with Peach Tie on this because yes, it was a 3-horse field last time out, but guess what? We're at a 4-horse field today and that dynamic doesn't change too much. They're going to be tightly packed and that sometimes for horses and riders, riding a 3-horse race can be a bit more difficult in that sense because there's no lag room
Right.
in between the field, essentially. So this one was hounded in between horses the whole way around, and she just put him away. And now she's on the outside of law school. That she could really benefit from that, which is probably why Brittany Russell gave her some significant time in between the gin talking and now. So we get a Brittany off of the layoff. She already is familiar with any kind of wet track footing from that Keeneland effort. There's just been a lot of high expectations for this one amongst the connections. So that's kind of, I'm just saying, hey, she's proven at that bat. She's a bit more battle tested in that sense. So that's where I go. And then when it comes to Velocity Girl and Mo Maxey, Velocity Girl comes in fresh off of a layoff. That's what all that was last time out. Obviously going to need to prove herself here, but she can draft to the outside a little bit and make one run. But Rock Your World, 22% with his progeny on a wet track. And with Mo Moxie, love the surface last time out. Just keep that in mind. If we get to a fast track, that's where I do worry. But if a wet track might throw in some value there.
All right, we look like we're going to be a little bit oppo here, but you are absolutely talking me into Peach Tie. That's such a good point about the way that race was run with those fast internal fractions. She probably ran a lot better than that final time suggests. If you give the Timeform US type upgrade, that would put her right there with law school. And then it becomes a rider's race. It becomes very tactical. I know it's not ideal to use multiple runners in a 4-horse field, but I am going to probably
I would use the 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna sneak some 4s onto my ticket there as well. Let's move to the second of these stakes races and see what we've got. This is the Miracle Wood going a mile with 100,000 in the pot. And this is the race I thought I was talking about last time as I was preparing my Balboa puns. Number 6, Balboa, representing the Remsen form. That form working out tremendously well with the comeback wins of both Paladin and Renegade. What happened to Balboa in the Jerome? Well, I think it was a case of going too fast on a track that day that seemed tilted to closers. Plus, the winner there, My World, had a perfect trip, and Connections thought enough of him to try the tilt in Saudi. Didn't work out, but that's okay. Balboa fits well here, and I think can deliver the knockout punch against this overmatched group. How do you see it?
I want you to save all of that audio and save and shelve it for a different time because Balboa is going to be a scratch as per this. So I didn't want to stop your flow.
I appreciate
it was
that.
Such a good bit. It was such a good bit, but unfortunately, Balboa is going to be a scratch here today. I think Connections, from what I understand, the Connections the owners, I think, want to push for the Jerome. They want to push for
Gotham.
Falcon, yes, the Gotham. Thank you. So that's kind of where I think potentially Balboa is going to be going. So scratch and Balboa.
Okay.
So
forget all that. Who's gonna you tell us who's gonna win?
So it's interesting here because Taj Mahal, very, very interesting here for Brittany Sheldon stretching out. Had that first near perfect educational trip. Sheldon I wish he would have done a little bit more dirt schooling, but he also had a lot in his hands. He moved at the right time. Anything a touch early because he had to go wide, but getting right into it. The dam's first time routing wasn't a stakes company at Gulfstream Park going the mile and coming off the pace. So the breeding's there to handle it, but we do have Let's Go Lando, who's just already proven at this distance well enough for Gary Capuano. And it's always a risk. For me, it's always a risk running a horse first on a fast track after a run on the slot, but I have a little bit of faith here. The half siblings, Steady Love and Shackled Love, were able to win next time out off of a wet track performance. So I'm going to go with the Gary Capuano on the outside. I do worry for Taj Mahal, just that second wire might do it in, but we're going to find out how much talent this one has. Close the gate for John Salzman Jr. with Villa Lobos. Now, we discussed, we've had a couple of losses within our community over here in Maryland, King Leatherberry being one of them. Yep. But another one that was not really talked about was Tim Salzman. So Tim Salzman, he was John's younger brother. So a lot of emotional connections here, ran so well in the spectacular bid against a horse that Gary intended to run in the Withers. So this one's coming off of a short turnaround. He did get a little bit tired in those last few jumps. So stretching out, but this is a good this is a good way to graduate stretching out. I just wish there wasn't so quick of a turnaround, but definitely a horse worth to consider underneath. And then GQ worthy. If you're Jerry Robb, this is the first time Xavier Perez is getting on this horse. I just ran into Xavier on the backside when he was on GQ worthy, and by all accounts, the horse is doing really well. He was, he's had experience on a wet track, but last time out, he was tolerated the sealed track in the beginning. He had, the getting the mud in your face is a bit different than getting the dirt in the face. So I think that it was a bit harsher. He had to adjust to it a little bit here. So I just think with the fact we get the X factor, I think that's going to help this horse out a lot here. I expect a little bit more from GQ Worthy here on Saturday.
I'm willing to take a tiny little shot here with Close the Gate. I think, especially in the absence of the horse that would have been the big favorite. I know what you're saying
Yeah,
about got out finished a bit last time, but just looking
sure.
at the clock, finished up okay, I thought. So I don't know.
Yeah,
On blood, could appreciate the extra ground. I mean, you're limiting
100%.
your use strictly to underneath, or do you give Close the Gate a squeak to win?
I give him a squeak because this race is with this, especially with the top three, a bit open. And I didn't preface this, but I could see Close the Gate just totally running with this. I would not be surprised if that was the case at all. I'm just, and it's for me, it's just a personal thing where I hate horses turning back around quickly unless they're like
Yeah,
super duper trained up for it. But at the same time, and for me going off of the physicals and the gallop out from last time out, I'm just a touch worried that there might be a bounce going because remember,
right.
we've got the second wire and that usually is what gets horses here. But I just said it could be the same exact case for Taj Mahal. But Close the Gate, I squeak for a win. Very,
All
very
right.
possible
We'll
here.
see.
Yeah,
We'll see how it plays out. I mean, there's so many questions, but
yeah,
questions in terms of distance, questions in terms of that 17-day turnaround,
100%.
questions in terms of class. This is a reformed claimer too, but we'll see how it shakes out. It's an interesting, even with the absence of Balboa, it's an interesting little race. Let's get to the nightcap for these 3-year-old fillies. Maiden claiming 40, going the mile. When it comes to this value late pick 5, Callie, how are
Mhm.
we going to get paid?
So let's talk kind of crazy here in the number 2, stretching out for Lacey Gaudette with Javian Toledo. The half siblings started showing up when they just got to the middle distances. So seemingly in the sense where last time out, going to 3/4 seemingly got flat. It looks like the horse is spinning wheels a little bit. However, that means to me that the horse needs to stretch out. So I'm gonna go with that on the outside. Pie 5 for Horacio De Paz, Tori Alba. Totally got discouraged in that effort last time out. We get an outside post on a shorter field. That's going to be a huge help. And then the number 5, Nothing Less Will Do. Mary Epler, Yessie Hazelwood sat right behind Velocity Girl, who just ran in a stake earlier on the card and came from way off of it. Green to me, green, but actually the horse you really want to consider is the Michael Trombetta and Villalobos horse. This horse was leading the whole field at the top of the stretch and just simply got tired. So routing off of a layoff,
Yeah.
this should be a big improvement second off the layoff. So actually I almost go 2-4-6-5 here. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a key piece of form, the race that Honor Thy Cookie and Nothing Less Will Do come out of. And I did
Yeah.
land on Honor Thy Cookie, has handled dirt before,
Sure.
has run the best figures if you consider any surface. She's got positional speed, dropping, bet strongly against better. And Velocity Girl did come
Yeah.
right back to repeat. Nothing
Yeah.
Less Will Do came out of that same race, but came from so far
Yes.
back. Maybe Cookie can reverse that form. And I like your case for kind of crazy as well. I don't think it's crazy at all to think this
Yeah.
one might be able to get a piece if she can handle coming back in 8 days' time. But I think there's reasons to think that that might be. Any other thoughts from you on this sequence or this Laurel card on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really, just kind of scrolling through these again. I mean, it's the big thing. The big shakedown is going to be in between Peach Tie and Law School. I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to that. I won't be surprised if either one gets away with it. I think you could say, oh, this is the horse to put a single on. I think you stay safe on your late pick 5 ticket and you put 2 in here. I mean, if you're looking for a single, actually, I would actually it might be worth it. I know this is kind of crazy, but it might be worth it going with Prince of Jericho.
Yeah. Well, it's not
It's hard.
crazy.
It's hard to find a single on this ticket
Yeah.
because you have Prince of. If you don't want to go a single, I would only go 2 with with It's Hammer Time and Prince of Jericho, on that opener. And if you miss the opener, you can just swing her back around for the late pick 4. I with the second leg, you gotta go wide on that sequence. At least 3 horses. I think that's going to be a lot more competitive than what it looks on paper. And like I said, it's hard. I hate to say don't single on the wide country, but I'm going to say this is where big test for both Peach Tie and Law School, and I think Peach Tie is going to get the edge on Law School. We're going to find out. To me, previously, when Law School has had to play that defensive and hasn't had somebody to the outside, she hasn't loved it. So it's going to be a big, but the 7 furlongs helps big time. So big question there. Again, the Miracle Wood, a lot of question marks on a couple of these. I would go at least 2-3 wide on a couple of them. Most likely the 4, 5, and 7 is what I would lean on. And then with this maiden claiming, the Trombetta easily can understand. And then, you put in my kind of crazy number, but then again, just remember Tori Alba and DePaz, they're at 26% together as of late. They're 10 for 38, and they do well going routing. It's just the way they've been going together in these recent months. So just keep that in mind. But
Yeah,
that's a
maybe
bit of a stretch.
if you can afford Pi 5
If you
there,
can afford,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe another one to throw in. But it's going to be fun. Let's see if we can't hit this thing. Kali, I'm sure we'll have you back soon. Really appreciate your time today.
Likewise, you are always so fun to go on with, and it's a blast. And hey, Balboa for next time, right?
In my stable mail for sure, but I think you're probably right about the Gotham.
Yeah.
It's probably a good sign, maybe, that they want to take on a graded company. Nothing, no offense to this company or this perfectly good purse down in the
Right.
Mid-Atlantic, but we'll see how it all plays out for him.
The horse could just be a better turn horse as well, as opposed to the 1 turn. Yeah.
Well, very excited to see. We got a lot of coverage of Triple Crown stuff coming up.
Yeah.
We won't have a new top 10 video this weekend, but probably in another week. But we're just going to be continuing to cover. If you're watching here on the In the Money YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe, click on one of our other videos. And if you're listening, you'll have more content coming up right after this.